Hey guys, tonight we begin somewhere strange, somewhere you've never been, and yet have always carried within you. Tonight, we're not strolling through the ruins of Rome or strolling beside knights in clanking armor. No. Tonight we go back before memory, before myth, before even the Ide of Hugh. Before you are you, there is nothing. A quiet, patient, dreamless dark. Not the darkness of a room or the comfort of night. This is the darkness of a thought not yet thought, of a story not yet told. No sound, no time, no edges to your awareness. Just stillness. Then something shifts. It's not dramatic. There's no thunder, no beam of light splitting the void. Just a pressure, a gentle pull, as if something is reaching across a chasm of time, calling to you. You don't understand the voice because it isn't made of words. It's a feeling, a need to become, to be pulled into being. And slowly, you start to move. Not physically, not yet. But your awareness leans forward, and the nothingness begins to ripple. The first sense to arrive is smell. Cold, damp, ancient, mineral-rich. It's the scent of deep stone, untouched by sunlight. It fills you before you even open your eyes, as if your body is being built from it, atom by atom. Then comes touch, a faint awareness of rough limestone pressing gently against your side. You are surrounded by rock, but it's not a prison. It's warm, in its own way, protective. You are not buried, you are cradled. This place will one day be called the Rising Star Cave System. But right now, it is neither rising nor named. It just is. A labyrinth of narrow passages, of yawning chambers and winding tubes. A breathing stone lung beneath the earth. It is your home, your womb. And though you don't yet know it, perhaps your tomb. You stir. You shift, and you begin to open. You are not born with a cry or a gasp. You arrive slowly, like mist curling across the floor of a cave. Your awareness collects into a shape. Small, solid, curious. You don't know who you are. You don't even know what you are. But something in the dark calls again. Wake up. There is a story to be told, and it is yours. You are the one who shouldn't be here. You are the contradiction, the impossibility, the footnote of evolution scribbled into the margins. You are the wrong thing at the wrong time, surviving in defiance of every rule life seems to obey. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is where you are. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The cave breathes with you now. You're not alone here. Not exactly. The echoes of the stone shift subtly around your shape. And you begin to form. Nerves spark. Muscles twitch. A body takes root. You're not floating. You're curled. Nestled in a crevice worn by water and time. Limestone presses against your back like an ancient blanket. You don't remember coming here because you haven't come from anywhere. You have always been here, waiting, The silence isn't just absence, it's anticipation. Outside this place, the world is wild and yellow and teeming. But here, all is still. The temperature doesn't change much. The light doesn't reach this far. And yet, deep in this cradle of rock, something has chosen you to return. You stretch. The movement is strange, tentative, like you're borrowing a body you're not quite used to. Your limbs are short, your joints compact. You're no giant. In fact, you're downright modest by modern standards. But you're whole. You are a creature. You have form. And slowly, you begin to sense what kind of creature you are. A low, rumbling drip echoes from somewhere deep in the cave, like a heartbeat slowed to geological time. You try to follow it, but your limbs aren't strong enough yet. Not fully. So you listen. And in the silence between drops, you feel time bending around you. One day, people will crawl into this place on their bellies, inching through 7-inch wide passages just to find a glimpse of your remains. They'll call the tightest crawl Superman's Squeeze. They'll name the climb Dragon's Back. But you know none of that. To you, the cave is not an obstacle course. It is a sanctuary. And maybe a secret. Because one day, long after your breath has stopped, they will find you here, curled like a question mark beneath the earth. They will ask who you were, what you were, why you came here, and they will find no simple answer. Your bones will confuse them. They will expect a pattern, an upward slope, a straight line from primitive to modern, from fur to fire to skyscrapers. But you are the broken link in the chain. You are the fossil that doesn't fit. And so the cave keeps you hidden for a while. Above, the sky is filled with giant predators and strange mammals. The continent groans with glaciers and droughts. Evolution plays its favorite game, trial and error. Most of the trials fail. Most errors are forgotten. But somehow, impossibly, you endure. Not forever. But long enough to leave a trace. Your trace. You take one more breath of the mineral air. You press your hand to the cave wall. You do not know it, but that wall is 250,000 years older than the fingertips that now touch it. Wake up, little one. There's a world outside, and it's waiting for you to explain yourself. You open your eyes. The world that greets you is smeared and watery, a pale swirl of shapes in the half-light. You blink, and the world rearranges itself into something more solid. A ceiling of rock overhead. The shimmer of moisture clinging to the stone. The earthy scent of fungus and old air curling into your nostrils. You are alive. But the first thing you truly notice is that you are low. Very low. Your line of sight scrapes just above the ground. Plants look taller than they should. The cave mouth, if it is near, is far above. You are standing, but the horizon seems distant. You are small. Not child small, but fully grown and barely 5 feet tall. Compact, tense, efficient. And then you move your hand. It's strange how quickly it becomes the center of your awareness. You raise it before your face, palm open. The fingers twitch. You can flex them. The knuckles curl. First clumsy, then with eerie precision. Your thumb presses to your fingertips, each one. Perfect opposition. You make a pinch, a grip, a twist. This isn't a primitive paw. This is a surgeon's instrument. The wrist rotates easily, smooth and tight. You could pluck a thorn, crack a nut, skin bark from a branch. These are human hands by most definitions. Strong, agile. They belong to someone who should be chipping stones, sewing hides, lighting fires. But then you notice something else. The fingers are long, really long. They taper slightly and curve gently inward, like the tendrils of a climbing vine. Beautiful, delicate, almost unsettling. They do not belong to the ground. These are not tools of toil. These are hooks, claws, echoes of the trees. These are a climber's hands, an ancestor's hands. They remember forests that are no longer here. They remember the sway of branches beneath a dawn sky, the tension of bark beneath curled fingertips. And even now, in a world that is opening into grassland and danger, your hands reach for heights. You look down. Your feet are planted on hard-packed earth. Dry, gritty, warm. You wiggle your toes, press your weight heel to toe. They respond like modern feet. The arch supports you. The heel absorbs shock. The toes, short and sturdy, grip the ground with confidence. You are a walker, a traveler. The miles mean nothing to these feet. It's a curious thing. From the waist down, you feel prepared for the future. Built for the open savanna. You could stride for days, balancing speed with endurance, exactly like those tall, tool-wielding cousins you haven't met yet. But from the waist up, you are something else entirely. Your ribcage flares outward like a bell. Your shoulders are broad and high-set. They seem ready to swing, to hang, to lift your body upward from a single hold. The muscle attachments scream of a life spent climbing, grasping, maneuvering through a three-dimensional world. You are not one creature. You are two, stitched together. To walk is to feel modern. To reach is to feel ancient. Your upper half pulls toward the trees. Your lower half marches toward the plains. You are a living argument, a contradiction given bones and breath. Every movement you make is a negotiation between past and future. You take a breath. The air smells older than you. It carries pollen, dust, distant rot, the promise of rain that may or may not come. It enters your chest, and the ribs expand. Your lungs are strong. You are lean, sinewy, all tendon and bone. No wasted mass, no softness spared. Your stomach growls. That will be a recurring theme. You live on the edge of starvation. There's no full feast euphoria for your kind. Just enough. Always just enough. But then comes the part you don't expect. You lift your hand again, not to touch, but to feel. Your head. Your fingers meet a dome of bone, not much larger than a grapefruit. Smooth, compact. The forehead slopes back quickly. The brow is prominent, the skull long and low. You run your fingers across it, following the curve backward. It's small. You don't know what small means yet. Not in terms of brain size. But if you could compare, you'd find your brain case only holds about 465 cubic centimeters of thought. That's less than half the size of the brain of a modern human. Closer, in fact, to the brain of a chimpanzee. And yet, something stirs inside that little orange-sized mystery. You feel it in the way your eyes linger on your fingers, in the awareness of the cave's stillness, in the quiet ache of your gut. Not just hunger, but anxiety, anticipation. You are aware, not just reactive, like a cat or a deer, but aware of yourself. Historians still argue whether a brain so small should be capable of self-recognition, social strategy, even grief. The scans of your skull, long after you've turned to fossil, will reveal unexpectedly human-like regions. Frontal lobes that shape choice, temporal lobes that cradle memory. You aren't just running on instinct. You're forming impressions, feeling bonds, contemplating others. A quirky note. Your brain folds more tightly than ours, like a crumpled cloth pressed into a tiny drawer. It's the neurological equivalent of packing light, and yet somehow still bringing everything you need. So what's in there? We can't say for sure. Maybe you imagine. Maybe you dream. Maybe you remember something from yesterday and wonder if it will happen again tomorrow. Maybe, just maybe, you look at another member of your clan and feel more than just their presence. You feel love, annoyance, recognition, loss. And all of this paradoxical, compact little marvel, is balanced atop a body that doesn't quite make sense. That's the theme of your entire existence, really. You are a creature that never settles. Not in one place, not in one time, not in one evolutionary box. You are a mosaic, a question, a glitch. And somehow you're still standing. You move toward the mouth of the cave. At first, it's a crawl. Your limbs stretch and press, finding the holds in the limestone that have always been there. Your fingers, those curved, remembering fingers, grip with ease. Your feet plant solidly, confidently, even in the uncertain light. You're not alone. You know that before you even see them. You feel them, hear them, your family. You emerge into the world together, blinking into the pale wash of dawn. The sun isn't a bright, golden disk here. It's a smudge of light behind morning mist, filtered through the high grass and thorn trees. The world is older than you, and it shows it. The sky is wide, the air sharp with the smell of dry leaves, animal musk, and cracked earth. The ground stretches out in a dull yellow-green plain, dotted with shrubs, termite mounds, and the threat of everything. You are in South Africa, though no one will call it that for another 250,000 years. And it is not a gentle place, but you are not alone. Your clan is here, about 15 of you, no more than that. You are not a civilization. You are not even a village. You are a unit. Small, tight-knit, fragile. You see the old one first. Stooped, slow-moving, but still sharp-eyed. Next, the juvenile. Gangly, playful, halfway between child and adult. A nursing mother nearby shields her infant with one arm, while gently digging in the dust with the other. There's an adolescent perched on a low branch, legs dangling, watching you with interest but no alarm. The others are scattered, but never far. They don't greet you with words. They greet you with presence, a tilt of the head, a shift of weight, a soft throat click, like a swallowed hum. You respond without thinking, raising your eyebrows, parting your lips slightly. It's enough. Your clan speaks in a language of glances, of breath, of posture. It's not grammar, not yet. But it's more than noise. It is emotion, encoded in gesture. And you are fluent. A low warning sound makes your ears twitch. One of the sentinels, lean, upright, scanning the horizon, has seen something. A pause spreads like a ripple through the group. Not panic, just alertness. A tension in the shoulders, a closing of ranks. There are predators out there, always. But for now, the warning passes. A false alarm. A distant shadow. Nothing more. The adolescent descends from the branch with a pleased grunt, as if proud of the momentary drama. You respond with a sideways glance that carries exactly the right meaning. Not impressed. This is your community. You don't share stories. You don't pass down myths. But you share warmth, protection, and, more critically, attention. You know each other's smells, moods, preferences. You groom each other not just to remove parasites, but to reaffirm your place in the group. To touch is to say, I see you, you matter. Scientists still debate the extent of your empathy. Could you mourn? Could you comfort? But your behaviors suggest something powerful. A life not defined by individual survival, but by collective survival. You endure as a unit, or not at all. When the young stumble, you lift them. When the sun is too much, you huddle in the shade together. You are not a lone predator. You are not a selfish wanderer. You are a web of relationships, some easy, some fraught, all essential. You share food, even when it's scarce. You take turns watching for danger, even when your own eyes are tired. You sleep in a pile, limbs tangled, backs pressed together, because the night does not forgive solitude. And when one of you disappears, when a member of the group does not return, you feel it. Not just physically, in the change to the routine, but emotionally. You hesitate more, groom less. You glance around more often, as if hoping they'll be there again. It's not language, but it's close enough. A quirky trait of your kind. You make sounds that mimic intent. A sharp call when spotting a snake. A rhythmic clicking to gather attention. A low hum to soothe the infant as she squirms. These aren't sentences, but they serve a purpose. They tell the group what matters, what's urgent, what's safe. You don't talk about your feelings. You are your feelings, and everyone reads them. A soft moment. The juvenile brings you something. A twisted piece of root, gnawed and muddy, offered like treasure. You accept it, not because you want it, but because it matters that they gave it to you. A future archaeologist might find such an offering fossilized beside your bones and call it incidental. But here and now, it's clear, it means something. Later you will huddle close and pick through each other's fur, not just for hygiene, but for comfort. Your touch calms the nervous system. Your presence helps regulate heartbeats. These things aren't theoretical. They're real, measurable. If a modern primatologist were to watch, they'd smile and say, "This is affection made flesh." The sun climbs higher, and your clan stirs into motion. Foraging begins soon. It must. The hunger is always waiting, just behind your ribs. You don't store food. You don't preserve. Every day is a new game of survival. But before you head out, you pause. A final glance at the youngest, still swaddled in arms, tiny hands twitching in sleep. This is not just survival. This is continuity. The child is the future of the clan, the thread that ties your strange body to a world that may not be ready for you. Still, the group moves. One by one, quiet and alert, stepping out into the golden morning. You follow, because you are part of them. And you do not survive alone. The hunger is always there. It lives behind your ribs like a second heart, quiet but persistent. Not the gnawing panic of starvation, at least not today, but a constant hum, a low burn. Your small body, so deceptively lean and strong, runs hot. Every step costs energy. Every thought, every twitch of your clever fingers. You wake hungry. You go to sleep hungry. And the world is not generous. The clan begins to move, fanning out across the brittle savannah like shadows that don't belong. There's no trail, no destination, just instinct, pattern, hope. The land decides where the food is, and you follow its whims. Your legs, modern as they are, carry you well. You are not fast, not compared to a predator or even a modern human child, but you are enduring. You cover ground with the grace of something that's done this forever. Through waist-high grass, over sun-bleached stones, ducking beneath acacia branches, you move with purpose and patience. The foraging begins. You stop at the edge of a dry creek bed, crouch, and begin to dig. Your nails are already chipped, already packed with grit. You don't use a tool, not because you can't, but because you don't. Not yet. You claw through the sun-baked crust, deeper, until your fingers find the knotted skin of a tuber. It resists. You yank. It gives. You don't celebrate. You bite. The root is bitter, fibrous, gritty as sandpaper. You chew anyway, grinding the tough flesh between your thick molared teeth. That enamel, broad, flat, ridged, was made for this. Paleontologists will later marvel at how much wear your kind endured. Your molars tell the story of every meal you've ever suffered through. The price of every calorie, they'll say, is dirt under the nails and grit between the teeth. They're not wrong. You swallow. The starch trickles into your bloodstream, calming the hunger for now. But you need more. Always more. You move again. The group is scattered, but always within earshot. A call, a sort of drawn-out "herk," rises from a nearby gully. A signal. Potential food. Or danger. It means come see. Not a command. An invitation. You head toward the sound. Along the way you find another plant. Thorny, shriveled, but with swollen nodules just below the surface. You kneel, dig, extract, repeat. You do this dozens of times a day. It's a kind of walking meditation. Chew, swallow, dig, repeat. Sometimes there's a reward, a small insect nest, a patch of half-fermented berries, even the occasional lizard if you're fast. But there are more days when your efforts yield nothing. You've gone hours without a single bite before, and you will again. Historians still argue whether you were opportunists or specialists, whether you adapted widely to many environments or were finely tuned to a single vanishing niche. But your diet leaves clues. Carbon isotopes, wear patterns, mineral traces, that whisper of a world where nothing came easy. Even water is earned. You find a shallow seep beneath a cracked boulder. The surface gleams with just a film of liquid. You kneel and press your lips directly to the stone. It's muddy, warm, and tastes faintly of decay. You drink anyway. You're not alone in your thirst. A hyrax chitters from a nearby ledge. A bird flits from branch to branch, watching. Somewhere beyond your vision, hooves scrape and stomp. Every creature on this plane is just trying to keep the edge of death one step behind. Your clan calls again. This time, it's urgent. You rise and jog, a careful, bow-legged jog designed for uneven terrain, until you find the group clustered around something low and grey. A root pile, half dug. Someone's been here. Or something. The ground is churned up, and there are shallow claw marks, perhaps from a warthog. But the food is still here. A thick clump of geophytes, twisted like swollen fingers. It takes all of you to extract them. Digging, pulling, watching for danger, sharing the labor, and eventually sharing the meal. Not in equal parts, mind you. The strongest get the biggest pieces. But no one goes without entirely. It's not a feast, it's survival. And even now, as the starch settles in your gut, the hunger never fully fades. It just recedes. You'll need more before the day is done. You always do. You move on. A quirky detail. You sometimes eat dirt. Not by accident. Not just what clings to roots, but deliberately, selectively. Certain clays, certain soils, rich in minerals. Your body craves what the plants don't offer. And so, in your own quiet way, you practice geophagy. A behavior shared by many primates, and occasionally modern humans too. It's not glamorous, but it works. You keep walking. The heat rises, the flies thicken, your breath grows shallow. And still you search. Not because it's noble, not because it's brave, but because you must. Because this is the only life you know, and it takes everything you've got just to keep it going. By late afternoon, your body is flagging. But the group has done well enough today. There is food in your belly, however scratchy and bland. You return to a familiar grove, a cluster of mopane trees with thick roots and forgiving shade. You rest, pressed close to your kin, their warmth merging with yours. You close your eyes, the hunger hums, soft and constant. But for now, you are still here, still surviving. You hear it before you see it. A rush of air, low, deep, almost silent except for the beat of wings moving too much sky. You freeze. Your eyes dart upward, scanning the bright canopy. Nothing. Just cloud-swollen light and a few scattered birds. But your body knows better. That wasn't weather. It was a shadow. Your clan stiffens. All motion halts. No words, no cries. Just instinct. You crouch lower into the grass. Your hand finds a rock, though you know it wouldn't help. If it's what you think it is, a rock won't save you. Overhead, a Stygian eagle circles once more, then glides away, unsatisfied. This time, you exhale through your nose. Slowly, controlled. No panic. Because panic is a luxury for creatures higher on the food chain. You are not one of them. The world you live in, this bright, prehistoric plane, is not built for your kind to thrive at the top. You are small, delicious. You don't have fire or weapons or traps. You have your clan. You have your wits. And you have the overwhelming, ever-present awareness that you are, more often than not, someone else's lunch. From your low perspective, the world tilts against you. Grass rustles in strange ways. Every shadow looks like teeth. You move through the world not like a king, but like a thief. Alert, cautious, always calculating the cost of every step. And then, it happens again. A sound. This one comes from the scrubland ahead. A low growl, far off, but not far enough. It rolls across the ground like thunder trapped in fur. Denisovans, the saber-toothed cat. Not as big as its cousin Smilodon, but faster, quieter, more cunning. You won't see it until it's too late. The group doesn't run. Not yet. Running without cause is a waste of precious energy. But then comes a flicker of movement in the bush, and that's enough. You flee. No command is given. No leader shouts. You just move. As one. Up the slope, toward the trees. This is where your strange body becomes a gift. Your feet, broad, modern. Sure, carry you over open ground quickly, but it's your arms that save you. As you reach the trees, you leap and grab the lowest branch. Those long, curved fingers wrap around the bark like they remember it. Your momentum swings you up. You're climbing now. The fear doesn't vanish. It rises with you. But it becomes manageable. The branches creak. You scramble higher, settling in a crook where the trunk splits, heart thumping. Below, some of the younger ones are still climbing. The older ones are already above you. You wait. Time slows. The grass below parts, just briefly. A streak of motion, a glint of gold and muscle. Then nothing. You do not call out. You do not even breathe loudly. Predators lose interest when prey becomes inconvenient. And that's your strategy. Not to fight. To vanish. You sit in that tree for a long time. Long enough for your legs to go numb and your fingers to cramp. But you don't move. Because moving could mean death. From this perch, your view expands. You see the savanna not as land, but as a chessboard. Termite mounds are castles. Trees are safe zones. Open ground is death. And from up here, it's easy to see how little power you have. The landscape belongs to others. The big cats, the hyenas, the crocodiles in the rivers. Even the baboons are more aggressive than you. The only thing keeping you alive is your body's strange memory of the trees. It's that tension again. Your feet brought you into danger. Your hands pulled you out of it. Some scholars argue that you were never meant to descend from the branches in the first place, that your body was caught mid-transition, partway between one world and the next. Not quite arboreal, not quite terrestrial, but needing both to survive. You wait longer. Eventually, the stillness returns. One of the older clan members huffs gently, a low, rising call. A question. Are we safe? Another answers. Maybe. You begin to descend. You move carefully, one limb at a time, checking for creaks, for anything that might give you away. When your feet finally touch the ground, they sink slightly into the leaf litter. You are back in the danger zone. But the urgency has passed. For now. A quirky thought. Your kind doesn't leave behind the same bite marks as other prey animals. Later scientists will notice this. They'll find your bones deep in caves, but not shredded or punctured. No tooth scores, no claw gouges. Almost like nothing ate you. That, too, will become part of the mystery. Because if you were constantly hunted, why didn't the predators leave their signatures? And if they didn't bring you into the caves, who did? But that's a question for another night. Now you regroup. The youngest are clinging tightly to the mothers, eyes wide. The adults are silent, listening. You settle close to the others again. The sky is beginning to darken. You survived. Again. But that doesn't mean you feel safe. You never feel safe. Safety is something that belongs to creatures with weapons, with fire, with walls. You have none of those. All you have is each other. And the ability to climb. The water is still, not clean, not pure, but still. A shallow pool gathered in a dip in the rock, rimmed with scum, and trembling with the weight of a recent predator's thirst. You approach carefully, sniffing the air, listening for movement. Then you kneel, cup your hand, and drink. And when you do, you see it. A flicker, a distortion, then clarity. Your reflection. The surface ripples, but the shape remains. A dark oval of a head. A long, low brow. Deep-set eyes. A nose that barely pushes forward from your face. Lips. Chin. All there, but not quite right. You tilt your head. The reflection does the same. It's not the first time you've seen your own face, but it never gets less strange. You are not like the others. Not entirely. You lean closer. Study yourself. You are not beautiful by modern standards. Not symmetrical. Not delicate. Your skull slopes. Your features are rough. But there is something in the eyes, dark, focused, that unsettles even you. Who is that? What are you? That question doesn't come in words, not the way it would in a modern mind. But it comes, like a tickle behind the eyes, a restless feeling, the beginning of awareness. Your mind is a small thing, no larger than an orange in volume, nestled snug in the cradle of your skull. Roughly 465 cubic centimeters of thought. That's just 1/3 the size of a modern human's brain. And yet, there is complexity inside. Modern scans will one day show the truth. Your frontal lobes, the seat of planning, of decision-making, of social nuance, are surprisingly developed. Your temporal lobes, the vaults of memory and emotional resonance, are shaped more like ours than like any ape's. Your brain may be small, but it is not simple. Historians still argue whether intelligence can be measured by size alone. Is a bigger brain always better, or does structure matter more? Connectivity? Specialization? Your species is Exhibit A in this debate, because what you do seems to outpace what your brain should allow. You remember things, not just where the good roots grow, but who shared with you, who hurt you, who's missing from the morning circle. You anticipate. You watch the skies for eagles. You learn the scent of a coming storm. You feel. When a clan member yelps in pain, you react. Not just reflexively, but emotionally. Your heartbeat quickens. Your eyes search their face. You care. Later, scientists will find the twisty grooves of your cortex and wonder, how much could you understand? Did you mourn? Did you hope? Did you dream? Even now, crouched by the water, you feel something stir that's hard to name. The surface of the pool shifts. A gust of wind. A falling leaf. Your reflection wavers and dissolves. You're left staring into a flicker of sky and tree. But the thought remains. You are aware, not just awake. Aware. A quirky note from the bones. Your inner ear, tiny, delicate, buried deep in your skull, is shaped not quite like a human's, not quite like an ape's. Somewhere in between. It gives you balance, orientation. It tells you where your head is in space. But more than that, it whispers of a mind that moved differently. A body tuned to a world between branches and ground. A life of both scanning and pondering. Your awareness is practical, yes, but also introspective. You sit back from the water, wiping your mouth. Around you, the others drink or lounge or search the underbrush for scraps. But you pause. Your gaze lifts to the sky. Blue. Endless. Stretched thin across the world. You don't name it, but you notice it. The color, the motion of the clouds, the way light changes as the sun tilts downward. This is not survival behavior. This is curiosity, maybe even beauty. Historians still debate whether your kind had the capacity for aesthetics. Did you find things pleasing? Did you prefer one stone over another? One path through the trees? It seems possible. A few signs suggest it. Bone arrangements. Patterns. Careful placement of bodies. But the data is thin. You didn't leave paintings. No jewelry, no carvings. Just bones. And yet the mind behind those bones, yours, seems capable of more. You lie back in the grass. The world is loud again. Insects. The rustle of wind through reeds, the creak of trees. You let it wash over you. Not because you're strategizing. Not because you're waiting for danger. Just because it feels good. That's not a survival instinct. That's something else. You glance at one of the younger clan members picking at their toes beside a log. They hum softly, a tune with no name. It loops and wavers. You listen. You smile, though you don't call it that yet. It's just a pull of facial muscles, a release of tension. But it feels like a smile. You don't know it, but a modern primate ethologist would call this moment proto-emotional expression. A seed of laughter, a cousin of compassion. But it's more than theory. It's your life. You feel. You remember. And sometimes, even in this dangerous, dirt-scraped, leaf-buried life, you wonder. Night falls fast. Not like the slow fade of modern cities, where the light lingers behind the buildings and street lamps flicker on in polite succession. Here, the sky simply gives up. One moment it's orange gold, hazy with dust, and the last warmth of the sun. The next, it's blue-black and uncaring. You feel the chill almost instantly. The warmth of the day seeps out of the rocks, out of the dirt, out of your own limbs. The grass no longer rustles with life. It shivers. The insects don't buzz. They skitter, silent, cold-blooded, barely moving. You huddle with your clan beneath the low branches of a thorn tree, your back pressed against another's. The warmth of their skin is everything. It is your blanket, your fire, your shield against the dark. But the dark doesn't care. Because you don't have fire, not even a spark. Other, newer kinds of humans, those strange, distant relatives you haven't met, are learning to tame the flame. They carry it in dry bark, coax it with flint, feed it with the bones of animals and the branches of trees. They sit beside it, faces painted orange and gold, cooking meat, sharpening tools, telling stories you will never understand. But you are not one of them. You are part of a lineage that never mastered the spark. Maybe you tried. Maybe once a curious ancestor rubbed sticks together and wondered. But there is no fire in your record. No charcoal layer, no scorched bone, no blackened hearth. Your nights are absolute. Historians still argue whether this was a limitation or a choice. Did your kind avoid fire out of fear? Or did you simply never learn, never need, never grasp the concept? Was it culture, environment, or a neurological boundary you couldn't quite cross? No one knows. But the absence is clear, and it shapes everything. The air grows colder. You shift closer to the others. limbs tangled, breath clouding slightly. Without fire, your options are limited. You cannot cook. You cannot extend the day. You cannot push back the creatures of the night with light and smoke. You listen to the darkness instead. And the darkness speaks. A branch snaps, far too heavy to be a squirrel. A low moan rides the wind, deeper than any bird, less structured than a feline call. It rises, falls, then disappears. You freeze. Everyone does. No one speaks, no one moves, because out there, just beyond the circle of your scent and sound, something watches. You are not alone tonight. You never are. Without fire, your diet is raw. Roots, tubers, tough greens, the occasional insect or egg or scavenged scrap of meat. But you can't break down the nutrients the way fire users can. You don't boil water. You don't purify. You chew and hope. This means you must eat more, digest more slowly, spend more of your day foraging, less time for anything else. Fire is more than warmth. It's time. Time stolen back from darkness. Time you don't have. And with less digestion comes less social bonding in the light. You groom, yes. You comfort. But the rituals of the evening are brief, constrained by temperature and fear. There is no storytelling by flickering flames, no lullabies echoing against cave walls, only breath, only sleep, fitful, light, interrupted by the slightest twig crack. A quirky observation. In colder climates, modern humans evolved shorter limbs and rounder bodies to preserve heat. But your kind remained gracile, long-limbed and lean, adapted for warmth, not cold. Fire might have helped you cheat the climate, but you never had that card. Instead, you rely on each other. Your pile of bodies is not just social, it's survival. Skin against skin. Breath shared. Even infants are pressed tightly between adults, wrapped not in blankets but in limbs. And when one of you stirs in the night, everyone does. A shift in weight, a sharp breath, then stillness again. The darkness tests you, and you endure it. Just barely. Some nights someone doesn't wake up. Too cold, too sick, too old. And the morning brings quiet sorrow, but no ritual. No fire to burn the body, no grave to mark the spot. Just separation. A laying down and a walking away. And the predators? They own the dark. You hear them now. A low huff. A crunch of bone somewhere beyond your awareness. Someone else didn't make it through the night. Maybe not one of your kind, maybe an antelope, a warthog, something larger. But it could have been you. Easily. There are nights when you feel this absence more than others. The absence of fire, of comfort, of power. And you wonder, again, not in words, but in that quiet pressure behind your eyes, what it must be like to carry light into the dark, to hold the monster killer in your hands, to draw shadows with flame and know they will not bite. But you have no such thing. Your night is full of cold, full of sound, full of fear, and yet full of life. Because even here, in the blackest part of your day, you exist. You survive. Without fire, you endure the ancient dark. Your hands are restless. Dawn has returned, pale, tentative, and you're crouched beneath a tree, fingers probing the soil for roots. Your curved digits, so perfectly suited for climbing, flex with surprising precision. You flick away pebbles. You trace subtle shifts in texture. When you find a tuber, you don't just yank. It's a careful tug, twist, and pull. You have excellent hands. Modern humans, those far-off descendants who will eventually study your bones, will marvel at them. Not just because they look so human, but because they work like human hands too. Your thumbs are strong and opposable. Your wrists are stable, capable of gripping, twisting, and, if necessary, using tools. But you don't. That's the strange part. No one will ever find a stone blade lying beside your fossil. No flake of obsidian or chunk of flint shaped by your touch. No sharpened stick with a fire-blackened tip. Despite hundreds, thousands of your bones discovered in the rising star caves, not one single solitary tool has been found with you. Historians still debate what that means. Did you not make tools at all? Did you use only the kind that rot, wood, bark, bone, horn? Did you leave no trace because your world was one of living things, not lasting ones? Your tools, if they existed, did not outlive you. Maybe you used a pointed stick to dig a root. Maybe you smoothed a rock in your palm just to hold something familiar. But nothing you crafted remains. No obvious evidence of culture in the way modern humans define it. And yet, you have the body of a toolmaker. You could, if you wanted. So why didn't you? There's a temptation to label this as failure, to assume that because you didn't shape stone, you didn't think, that you weren't intelligent, that without sharp edges and clever levers, you were somehow less. But your hands tell a different story. They are active, alive, used constantly. You scratch, dig, climb, cradle, pull, grasp, hold, groom, gather. Your fingers are never still unless you're sleeping. And even then, they sometimes twitch as if dreaming of movement. What they don't do is create the kind of legacy archaeologists love. There's something poetic in that. Your life leaves almost no mark on the world. But it leaves a mark on you. Calluses form in familiar places. Your knuckles are scraped, your nails chipped. Your fingerprints, if we could see them, would be worn thin by repetition. Your hands carry your history not in what they make, but in what they endure. A quirky hypothesis. Some researchers believe your kind may have used tools made entirely of plants, crafted baskets, bundled leaves, woven mats. Soft things, useful but temporary. If so, every artifact you ever touched has long since returned to the earth. Your tools, the theory goes, were born of the living world, and they returned to it. Still, others go further. They suggest something even more radical. What if you were never interested in tools? What if your intelligence, the small, tight, humming complexity of your brain, wasn't directed toward objects, but toward relationships? What if your genius was social? You don't chip rock. You read faces. You don't break bones for marrow. You notice who shared food yesterday, and who didn't. You don't carve idols or etch symbols. You sit beside the grieving mother and press your forehead gently to hers. Your hands touch meaning, not matter. Historians still struggle with this idea, that a human species could be intelligent, but not technological. That mind might evolve not for machines, but for cooperation, for empathy, for subtlety. It challenges the very definition of humanity. Because must a mind that thinks also make? Or is it enough to feel? Today, as you forage and climb and groom and rest, your hands never stop moving. You braid strands of grass together absent-mindedly, not to create, but to soothe. You wrap and unwrap a vine from your finger. You drum lightly against a hollow log. It's not music, but it isn't nothing. You lift a dry leaf, crumple it between thumb and forefinger. Watch it disintegrate. The texture pleases you. You press it to your lips. Taste the dust. The clan shifts around you. One of the infants fusses, and an older sibling reaches out, hand to shoulder, a gentle push. Not to silence, but to soothe. The gesture is echoed moments later by another. It spreads through the group like a wave. A touch language, hands without tools, but full of meaning. Later, you gather beneath the same tree as yesterday. The shade is familiar. The branch you rest your back against is worn smooth by repetition. No one planted this spot. No one claimed it. But it has become yours. Not by design, by memory. You don't leave behind monuments. You leave behind patterns. There's something beautiful in that. You live lightly. You move softly. Your hands make no machines, no weapons. But they know how to hold another's hand in grief. They know how to dig when food is low. They know how to scale a tree at full speed when a predator growls. They know the shape of survival, and they've known it for a very, very long time. It begins with silence, not the comfortable stillness of sleep or the alert hush of stalking prey. This silence is different, heavy, pressed down like a blanket over the whole group. It is the sound of something missing. Someone has died. You don't have a word for death. You don't mark it with language or ritual chants or carved stones. But you feel it. The absence is not abstract. It is physical. The one who used to sit near the tree, who had a limp and a cough and a tired look in their eyes, is no longer there. And everyone notices. You gather loosely. There are no sobs, no dramatic gestures, just a stillness, a waiting. Two members of your clan move toward the body. It's already wrapped, in a manner of speaking, tucked in a fetal position, as if the limbs curled inward on their own at the end. They lift it carefully, not with reverence exactly, but with care. You all watch them go. You don't follow, not yet, but the journey begins. They head toward the cave. Not just any part, but the old passages, the deep ones. Your body knows the route, even if your mind doesn't chart it. You've never spoken of it, never mapped it, but when you see the entrance, you feel it in your chest. This is the place. The ground grows rougher as they move forward. The light dims. At first, there's still wind, still the buzz of insects and rustle of grass, but then the walls close in. The rock presses inward. The air changes, becomes cool, damp, ancient. You follow now, not because you must, because you can't not. It's hard to say if you've done this before, if this is tradition or instinct. But there is a pattern to your movement, a purpose. It's not random. You reach the narrowest point first. It's called Superman's Crawl now, by the ones who will come long after you. A passage barely 7 inches high. Enough space to slide on your belly, arms pressed forward, chin tilted just so. You press your face into the rock and begin to wriggle. It's not easy. Your shoulders scrape. Your ribs compress. The limestone is sharp and wet. but you move, inch by inch. Behind you, the others wait, watching, patient. And then you're through. You blink in the dim light. Not light from the sun. There's none of that down here. But the memory of light. Reflected, maybe, off the damp walls. Or imagined. You climb next, the dragon's back. A long, jagged slope rising into the heart of the cave. Your fingers, those curved, climbing fingers, dig into crevices. Your toes find purchase in places even your eyes can't see. The air is getting heavier. Still, like it's been holding its breath for 100,000 years. Finally, you reach the top of the chute. This is the final descent. A narrow, twisting shaft, nearly 40 feet deep. It drops into complete blackness. No sound comes from below. No echo. No wind. Just void. You hesitate. The body is passed forward. No ceremony. Just a moment. A pause. Then release. The body falls. Not violently, not recklessly. Just surrendered, returned to the dark. It lands softly. The chamber below is deep with sediment, bones, dust. It accepts the dead as if it's done this many times before. You stay at the edge a while. No one climbs down. No one lingers too long. Then you begin to leave. No one speaks, not that you ever would. But there's a shared feeling among you, something you carry in your chests and in your eyes, a quiet understanding. You did something important. Historians still argue whether this was disposal or burial. Was it practical? A way to avoid the smell of decay near your shelter? A strategy to keep predators from finding you by scent? Or was it something more? A ritual, the beginning of one. You didn't dig a grave, you didn't mark the site with stones, but you took the body deep, so deep it could never be reached by scavengers, never found by accident. You took it through a labyrinth, through pain, through darkness, and then you let it go. That's not survival. That's something else. Later, some scientists will say, this must be a fluke, a strange accident, a coincidence of geology and decay. But others will say, no, this was chosen. This was done. Because the Naledi chamber, where your kind are found, holds many of you. Bodies placed over time, not all at once, not from a single collapse or catastrophe, but one, then another, then another, a slow procession of the dead. And the living, climbing into darkness. To return them. Why? No one knows for sure. But in this moment, as you crawl back into the pale world above, your knees bruised, your hands raw, your chest hollow, you feel something. It isn't relief. It isn't fear. It's completion. Like something ended properly. A gesture. A goodbye. And if that's not the beginning of ritual, of meaning, of memory, what is? Let's go back. Not far, just a few hours, maybe days. Back to that same narrow shaft. Back to the moment when the body falls. But now, shift your perspective. Rewind the scene. And this time, ask a harder question. What if you didn't mean to be here? What if none of you did? Picture the cave again, not as a sacred site, but as a trap. A labyrinth with no signs, no memory, no light. A wrong turn on a foraging mission. A misstep during a chase. You squeeze through Superman's crawl, not as part of a procession, but in desperation, searching for shelter, safety, escape. You reach the dragon's back, climbing because there's no way back. No handholds, no markings, just instinct and fear. And then you see the chute. Not a place to lay someone down, but the end of the line. You slip, fall, it's over. This theory, called the death trap hypothesis, holds weight. Some scientists believe that the Homo Naledi chamber didn't receive bodies as part of any intentional act, but simply collected them over time. That Homo Naledi, your kind, found their way in, but couldn't find a way out. That this wasn't ritual. It was mistake. Historians still debate which version is more likely. The cave, after all, is hard to reach. Even for the trained modern researchers who'll one day map its depths, getting in requires a rare combination of size, flexibility, and nerve. Most adult humans simply don't fit. The ones who do, called the underground astronauts, must crawl, twist, climb in total darkness. So how would you, a creature without light, without maps, without ropes, make it through? And why would you go in there? Another idea. Maybe you didn't walk in at all. The predator hypothesis suggests that something else dragged you in. A large carnivore using the cave as a den. Perhaps it snatched you from the savannah, pulled you into the dark, fed its young on your limbs, and left your bones to scatter. That happens in nature. Bones accumulate in dens, sometimes neatly, sometimes messily. But here's the catch. Your bones don't bear those signs. No tooth marks, no shattered skulls, no gnawed femurs. In fact, your remains are pristine in a way that suggests something other than violence brought you here. So the predator theory loses traction. Still, there's another possibility. What if you came here intentionally, but not to bury, to die? The dying place hypothesis. A haunting idea. That when your kind grew sick or old, they wandered into the depths willingly. That, like some modern elephants, you had a sense, however dim, of your own ending. That you found a dark, quiet place and lay down, alone, to let the world forget you. It sounds poetic, but the bones don't all match that either. Some individuals in the Homo Naledi chamber were young, strong, not obviously sick, and while a single death like that might be dismissed as an anomaly, dozens begin to look like something else. Still, the theories pile up, because that's what humans do when faced with something that doesn't fit. They create explanations. They argue. They sketch models on whiteboards, crawl through simulations, run CT scans, rebuild every inch of your cranium in 3D and ask, what were you thinking? But your bones don't speak, not in words. They sit in the dark and keep their secrets. And the deeper they are found, the louder the debate becomes. Were you the first of your kind to contemplate death, to understand loss, to honor the fallen? Or were you simply unlucky, led by instinct, trapped by stone, buried by chance? The truth is murky, like the mud of the chamber floor. A quirky irony. Some of the researchers who argue against the burial hypothesis cite the difficulty of the journey. They say you weren't capable of such complex navigation, that your brain was too small, that without maps, without tools, without fire, you couldn't have done it. And yet, you are there. Not once, not twice, but over and over. Like a signature, a pattern, a whisper. Some scientists push back, but look at the biomechanics, the angles of the shafts, the climbing required, This isn't practical. To which others respond, that's the point. Perhaps practicality wasn't the goal. Perhaps meaning never is. Historians still argue whether the Rising Star Cave is a tomb, a trap, or a monument to chance. But here's what we know. You did something no other species quite like you has ever done. You entered the dark, and you never came out. Whether it was for love, ritual, mistake, or instinct, we may never know. But that doesn't make it meaningless. It makes it human. You are a riddle, a tangle of features that don't agree with each other. You walk upright like a human, climb like an ape, and think, well, like something in between. If evolution were a clean ladder, you'd be missing a rung. But it's not. It's messy, twisted, a bush, not a line. And you're a knot in that bush, a tight, unexpected clump of past and future. Your body doesn't lie. It just confuses. Your shoulders are high and slightly hunched, the way they were in earlier ancestors, creatures like Australopithecus, who still lived in trees more than 2 million years ago. Your flared ribcage and wide pelvis are echoes of that ancient lineage. They speak of a time when the branches were home, and gravity was an enemy held at bay by grip, strength, and instinct. But then there are your legs. They're long, straight, and shaped for walking. Your knee locks when you stand. Your heel strikes the ground first. Your stride is efficient, confident, a hallmark of a land dweller. In fact, your lower limbs are so modern, they wouldn't raise eyebrows if found attached to a human skeleton in a contemporary hospital bed. Your hands? Already explored, already marveled at, but still uncanny. Your head? That one's still making scientists argue. Because inside that small skull is a mind that makes you sit in the trees and hum to yourself. That climbs into a cave and leaves the dead behind. That lives in tight-knit groups and shows patterns of care and memory. And all of this, without a brain even half the size of a modern human's. What are you? Not who, but what? That question has haunted paleoanthropologists ever since your bones were first brought out of the Rising Star Cave system. They compared your features to everything they knew, and every time the answer came back incomplete. You don't fit. You never did. Some tried to call you a relative of Homo Erectus, that ancient traveler who ranged from Africa to Asia nearly 2 million years ago. There are similarities, yes, but also glaring differences. Your brain is smaller, your build is stranger, your face more primitive. Others suggested you're something older, a surviving offshoot of a lineage that should have vanished long ago. Maybe a relict population from the deep past, hiding in caves while the rest of the world moved on. Or maybe, just maybe, you're something entirely your own. A branch that never connected neatly to the others. A ghost species. A side path in the great forest of humanity that kept walking when no one was watching. Historians still argue whether you should even carry the name Homo. Some think it's generous, others think it's overdue, because you are both like us, and very much not. You are a chimera, not the fire-breathing kind, stitched from goat and lion and serpent, but the evolutionary kind. A fusion, a body built from borrowed time. Shoulders from the past, feet from the future. A mind that doesn't match the case it's in. You live in contradiction, and you do it well. A quirky comparison. Some scientists have pointed out that your mix of features is more extreme than any living primate. That even chimps and gorillas, our closest relatives, are less strange, less oddly assembled than you. You are not a halfway point. You're a collision. And yet, you lived. For hundreds of thousands of years, your kind survived. You raised children. Buried, or disposed of, you're dead. Traveled across landscapes filled with predators. Foraged, climbed, remembered. You lasted long enough to be fossilized, discovered, argued over. That's not a failure. That's success. Even if you shouldn't have been here. Because by all rights, you shouldn't. You weren't the fastest, or the strongest. You didn't have fire or tools or language, not as we know it. And yet, you endured. Your very survival is a challenge to our ideas of progress. Because if brains, tools, and fire are the ultimate markers of humanity, then what are you? You are not a prequel, not a draft. You are a full story, a whole species, and your bones remind us that the human journey wasn't a clean staircase to glory. It was a maze, a tangle, a series of strange, wonderful experiments. You are one of them. And perhaps the most mysterious of all. The land begins to shift beneath your feet. Not literally, not yet. But slowly, season by season, something in the air changes. The grasses grow taller, browner. The rains come later. The trees you rely on for safety and shade seem fewer, farther apart. The savanna is stretching, reaching wider, drier, hotter. You're not the only one who notices. The clan grows more restless with each passing week. You roam farther than usual. The food patches that used to be predictable are now patchy, unreliable. Water is more often found by scent and hope than by memory. And then, one evening, while perched on a ridge scouting for tubers, you see it. A flicker. Orange, unnatural, pulsing faintly against the horizon. At first, you don't understand it. Fire, to you, has always meant distance. Lightning strikes, distant grass blazes, things you observe and avoid. But this is controlled. It doesn't spread. It doesn't devour. It moves. You squint. Press your hand to your brow. The flicker is accompanied by movement. Shapes in the half-darkness. Too upright, too fast. They move with intention. Not the lumbering rhythm of elephants. Not the skittering dash of antelope. These are people, but not your people. They're taller, their limbs longer, more confident on open ground. They carry objects, spears maybe, with sharpened tips that glint in the firelight. And they stay out long after you would have hidden. The fire is theirs. The night, too. You freeze. They don't see you. Or if they do, they give no sign. You stay on the ridge, crouched low, barely breathing, watching them move across the plain like they own it, like they belong. You feel it in your chest, something ancient and wordless. Not fear, not admiration, but something colder. Recognition. They are the future. They have what you don't. Fire, yes. But more than that, tools. Language, maybe. A coordination you can't replicate. They walk like they've already survived everything that's trying to kill you. You, in contrast, are hunched in the grass, curved fingers twitching, wondering if you should run or stay still. They don't know you're watching. But you know what you're looking at. A glimpse of your replacement. Historians still argue whether Homo Naledi and Homo sapiens ever met directly. The timelines blur. Radiocarbon dating slips. But the overlap is possible, perhaps even likely. And if not a meeting, then a passing glance. A trace. A whisper on the wind. you retreat slowly. Back into the trees, back into the shadows. Not chased, not noticed, but shaken because the difference is undeniable. You've always known your body was strange, part ape, part human, but now you see what fully modern looks like, and it's terrifying. They throw. You don't. They talk. You gesture. They command the night. You hide from it. You feel like a ghost already. And yet your heart still beats. Your breath still comes in soft puffs of steam. You are alive, real, present. But for how long? A quirky thought enters your mind, though you wouldn't call it that. Just a sensation, an itch of awareness. What if they aren't just different? What if they don't see you? Not in the literal sense, but in the evolutionary one. You are not prey to them. Not yet. You are invisible. You are not a threat, not a rival. You are the past. And one day soon, you will be gone. There is no conflict between you. No clash of tribes or battles for territory. Not that we've found. But there doesn't need to be. Sometimes extinction is quieter than that. Sometimes all it takes is being forgotten. They move on, fire trailing behind them like a banner of dominance. You watch until the last ember fades behind a hill. Then you stand, stretch, and begin the walk back to your clan. The grass scratches your legs. The stars above blink, unbothered. Somewhere a lion growls. Somewhere else a bird chirps, confused by the hour. And somewhere, just beyond the curve of the earth, the future is walking upright with fire in its hand. But tonight, you are still here, still moving, still real. You wake to a world that no longer suits you. The drought has been going on longer than usual. The air is dry in your throat. Your breath sticks. The leaves on the mapane trees are brittle, curling in on themselves like tiny fists. Even the insects seem quieter, less to hum about. Your body, so finely tuned to a balance that no longer exists, is starting to show signs of strain. Your joints ache. Your muscles pull tighter with every step. It's not age, not injury. It's the slow erosion of adaptability. Your design is failing you. The clan moves with less energy now. Every morning you rise a little slower. The infants nurse more often, but grow less. The adults are gaunt, cheekbones sharper, ribs visible through skin. There are fewer playful sounds. Grooming sessions are shorter, distracted. The conversations of glances and gestures that once flowed easily now come sparingly, as if everyone's conserving energy for more urgent tasks. The plants you rely on, those starchy tubers and tough greens, are retreating. Their water-rich roots have sunk deeper. You dig for them still, knuckles red, fingernails splitting, but your hands bring up more dirt than food. Some of the old patches are simply gone. Others have been claimed by more desperate animals. The trees are dying too, and with them goes your safety. You were never a creature of the plains, not fully. Your feet carried you across them, sure, but your hands needed trunks to wrap around, limbs to climb, heights to vanish into. Now, with fewer trees, fewer shelters, your strange halfway body finds itself exposed. You are no match for the ground, not like the taller ones, not like the Homo sapiens. You can't sprint long distances, can't spear a gazelle, can't chase prey into exhaustion. Your compromise, part climber, part walker, has become a liability. The predators seem to know. They linger longer, take bolder steps, A hyena skulked into camp last night, closer than usual. You chased it off, but it didn't run far. Just to the edge of the dark, watching. You begin to walk farther in search of food. It costs more. Each journey burns through your reserves, and not all of them return with something to eat. The group is thinning, slowly. No dramatic event, no catastrophe. Just attrition, a slow forgetting by the land. Your bones begin to tell the story before your consciousness does. There's a dull ache in your shin, like something old and deep has cracked. Your teeth hurt, not from decay, but from use. Grinding. Wear. You chew roots that no longer yield the calories you need, but you chew them anyway because there is nothing else. Later, when scientists examine your remains, they'll see the damage. Lesions along the limb bones, signs of inflammation, degeneration in the joints, stunted growth in the children's skeletons, evidence of nutritional stress. They'll call it pathology, but you call it life, or, more precisely, the end of life. Historians still argue whether your extinction was gradual or sharp, whether you were edged out by a single event, drought perhaps, or whether the slow creep of environmental change eroded your ability to survive. But your body tells a simple story. You were perfectly adapted for a world that disappeared beneath your feet. Not all at once, but relentlessly. A quirky signal comes from your feet. Despite their human-like shape, arches, toes, heel strike, the wear patterns in your fossilized metatarsals show a change. Less force, more imbalance. As if even walking became an act of exhaustion. A compromise that hurt. You begin to rest more during the day. In the heat of noon, you huddle in what shade remains. Breathing shallowly. Listening not for predators but for the wind. Hoping it brings rain. It rarely does. The sky taunts. Once your people thrived, not as rulers, but as survivors. Quiet, clever, strange. You adapted to danger by weaving your bodies around each other, around trees, around habits. You didn't change the world. You worked around it. But now the world has moved on and left you behind. Even your best traits begin to betray you. Your group cohesion, once your greatest strength, becomes a burden. You share food, but there is not enough to share. You huddle together, but warmth becomes heat. You forage together, but cover less ground. Together you dwindle, you do not despair. Despair is too big a word, too heavy for your small, efficient mind. But you sense it, somewhere beneath your ribs. The heaviness, the dragging weight of being less than what the world demands. There are no ceremonies to mark this turning, just a quiet recalibration. Your clan shrinks, not dramatically, but steadily. You are part of a species winding down, not with war, not with fire, but with silence. With the sighing breath of a body that once fit, now misshapen by time. And yet, you continue, because extinction doesn't feel like a moment. It feels like today, and tomorrow, and the day after that, until one day. There is no next day. There is no final roar, no great collapse, no crater, no flood. Your end doesn't come with drama. It comes with quiet, with the hush of fewer footsteps, with the absence of breath where once there was warmth. You are the last family. The last of Homo Naledi. You don't know this, of course. There is no census. No historian standing nearby with a quill, but you feel the difference. The way silence creeps in where once there were familiar sounds. The way the night feels colder, not just because of the weather, but because of who isn't huddled against you. There are 6 of you now. An elder, wheezing with every breath, a pair of mates, thinner by the week, a child, no longer playful, and a newborn, eyes unfocused, too quiet for someone so small. And you, still moving, still trying, still failing. You wake in the mornings and count without counting. A glance, a nose twitch, a sound. You register who's missing even before your mind catches up. The elder doesn't rise today. His chest doesn't move. He simply stays where he lay the night before, curled, as if he had simply grown too still to continue. There is no ceremony. You don't carry him to the cave. You don't have the energy. You just leave. A slow walk away, eyes flicking back, then forward again. The pace of extinction is this, not thunderous, not fiery, but soft. Tired limbs, empty bellies, journeys cut short by the weight of another failure to find food. Historians still debate the exact date of your disappearance. The fossil record is patchy. There may have been other tiny bands elsewhere, surviving a little longer. But your kind fades from the layers of the earth. The bones stop appearing. The sediment settles, and the world forgets you. The newborn doesn't make it. There's no milk left, no strength. The mother cradles the body for most of a day, rocking gently, not in mourning, but in habit. She doesn't know how to let go. Eventually she does. Eventually all of you will. A quirky and tragic detail. Your time on Earth, if measured strictly, is impressive. Homo Naledi may have persisted for hundreds of thousands of years. You lasted longer than Homo sapiens has so far. But your time wasn't celebrated. There were no monuments built to your perseverance. Just bones scattered in darkness. Your extinction is not a meteor strike. It is a flickering candle, a smaller group, fewer births, shorter journeys, longer rests. The child stops playing altogether. Once he would have climbed the low branches, tested his grip, startled insects just to see them flit. Now he sits, watches, moves only when prodded. His stomach is swollen, not from fullness, but from absence. You try to forage, you dig, you wander farther than you should. Nothing. Even the bugs seem fewer. There are no predators here anymore, not because it's safe, but because it's empty. The great cats have moved on. The scavengers circle elsewhere. This land no longer promises life, just a whisper of what once was. And then, one morning, you don't get up, not because you're sick, not because you're old, but because it's enough. Your muscles don't want to carry you anymore. Your eyes drift shut. You hear the wind through the grasses, thin and high like a flute. You feel the sun faint against your skin. You feel the breath of the others close by, those who still remain for now. This is how a species dies, not with a roar, but with a whisper, a final huddle in the cold, a journey to the cave from which there is no return. And when your eyes close, that's it. The last of you is gone. No one marks it. No one notices. The earth does not flinch. And yet, somewhere deep in the dark, the rising star cave waits. Quiet, patient. You may not know it, but you've already left your mark. bones nestled in sediment, secrets packed in skulls, a question buried in silence. You did not conquer the world, but you walked in it, and for a time, longer than most, you endured. Darkness swallows you once again. Not the living dark of fear and predators, but the still, unbroken dark of time. Your consciousness dissolves back into the cave, back into the limestone that held you like a cradle. The world above moves on, but you no longer move with it. A slow drip echoes in the distance. Drop, drop, drop. The sound marks the only passage of time you'll ever feel again. The air grows heavier, damp. Dust settles over your bones like fine ash. And slowly, you become part of the cave itself. Centuries pass, then millennia. Your body rots and softens. Flesh disappears, carried away by invisible insects and the slow work of decay. Tendons dry, snap, and vanish. What remains is bone, fragile but stubborn, encased in the same earth that once scraped your knees. But even bone is not forever. Minerals seep into the hollow places, replacing the calcium with stone. You become fossil, less bone, more rock, but still undeniably you. The limestone presses against you, squeezing gently, like it's trying to memorize your shape. Outside, the world changes. The climate shifts. The rains come in new patterns. The savanna shrinks and grows again. Herds of massive animals roam the plains. Giant elephants, strange antelope, birds taller than you ever were. Then they too vanish, one by one. The great predators, Denisovans, hyenas with jaws strong enough to crack skulls, fade into memory. You are not there to see it, but if you could, you would not recognize the land that once defined your life. Time keeps folding over you like layers of cloth. The cave seals itself. Entrances collapse. Sediment piles higher. For thousands of years, no creature ventures deep enough to disturb your slumber. Even your descendants, if you can call them that, don't know you're here. Homo sapiens appears, spreads, builds. They light fires where you never could. They speak languages that dance and coil, telling stories you would not understand. They forget you, completely. The millennia stretch longer. Ice ages come and go. Vast ice sheets creep over continents far to the north. Entire coastlines vanish under rising seas, then reappear as the oceans retreat. The stars above wheel and shift, new constellations forming in the endless sky. And you remain still. Your skull rests in the sediment, tilted slightly to one side. Your teeth, those tough, worn molars, still hold the grit of your last meal. Your curved fingers still clutch the earth, as if in the middle of digging. A quirky image. Tiny stalactites form above you, dripping like slow-motion candles. Over centuries, their drops build stalagmites below, inching toward you like reaching hands. Some of them will one day frame your resting place like pillars in a temple. The world above becomes unrecognizable. Humans, your strange fire-loving cousins, build cities, kingdoms, empires. They forge weapons, cross oceans, paint their histories in towering walls of stone and light. They look up at the night sky and wonder about their origins, never suspecting that in a quiet cave, a distant cousin still waits to answer them. Historians still argue over what human means. They debate whether tool use, language, or brain size defines the boundary. Meanwhile, your bones, hidden under layers of rock and dust, wait with their quiet defiance. You are not erased. You are simply sleeping. And one day, far beyond anything you could imagine, someone will come looking. They will crawl through Superman's crawl, climb the dragon's back, and lower themselves into the chute with ropes and lights. They will touch your skull with gloved hands, brush away the sediment from your curved fingers, and whisper in awe. But for now, you rest. The cave exhales around you. A slow, cool breath that has been unchanged for 250,000 years. It holds you, not as a prisoner, but as a memory. It is your home, your tomb, your archive. You do not know the names of those who will find you. But they will, and when they do, the silence of millennia will break. It begins, not with thunder, but with a vibration. Faint, infrequent. At first, the cave doesn't notice. After all, the cave has heard it all before. Shifting rock, settling sediment, the occasional distant animal scratching at the entrance, then retreating. But this is different. The vibration grows steadier, louder. There are murmurs, voices echoing oddly through stone, metallic clinks, the sound of rope dragged against rock. Light, real light, not imagined, not the glint of minerals or trickle of bioluminescent fungus, but light floods the darkness for the first time in 250,000 years, and it touches you. Not the living you, the you who has long since become bone and stone, the fossilized shape of a life once lived. The first faces to peer into the dinner lady chamber are small, narrow-shouldered, covered in dirt and effort. These are not warriors or conquerors. These are scientists. But more importantly, these are women. They've crawled, twisted, and contorted their way through a pitch-black maze to reach this impossible space. Slender enough to fit through Superman's crawl, brave enough to descend the vertical chute. They are called the Underground Astronauts, a team of 6 extraordinary researchers sent to do something few thought possible: retrieve the bones of a long-lost species from the deepest chamber of the Rising Star Cave. Their headlamps sweep across your resting place, and for a moment, they freeze. Because there you are, skull tilted sideways, brow bone still prominent. Ribs flattened by time, fingers still curved as if mid-thought. You look too intact, too deliberate, not scattered like other fossils. More like someone who simply lay down. They whisper, not out of superstition, but out of awe. Their hands don't reach for you immediately. They hover, as if afraid to disturb not just the bones, but the silence that's held you all this time. And then, gently, they begin. Brushes, picks, gloved fingers. Every grain of sediment removed with reverence. Every bone catalogued with care. You are not just a specimen. You are a message from deep time. Your story is waking up. Above them, their team leader, paleoanthropologist Lee Berger, waits anxiously. He cannot fit into the narrow passages. Few can. But he listens as updates crackle through radios, as bone after bone is passed up through the chute, each one wrapped like a sacred relic, and each bone deepens the mystery. At first, they expect a child. The skull is small, no larger than an orange, but the teeth are worn. The joints are fused. This was an adult. And not just one. More bones follow. Then more. Until it's clear, this is not a single burial. It is a population. Your people. Piece by piece, the scientists build your skeletons in their minds. The long legs, the modern feet, the primitive shoulders, the small but structured brain case. They argue, sometimes passionately, about where to place you in the human story, because you don't fit anywhere neatly. You are Homo Naledi, named for the cave where you were found. Naledi, meaning star in Sesotho, the local language. But you are more than a name. You are a question, and the team can feel it. One researcher, covered in sweat, dust streaking her cheek, gently lifts one of your curved fingers and murmurs, almost to herself, "How?" Because the cave doesn't give up its secrets easily. No tools, no fire, no gnaw marks from predators. Just you. And yet, your placement in the cave is too deliberate to be chance. Too deep. Too difficult. Too human. Historians still argue whether it was burial, or a death trap, or something stranger still. But in this moment, for these women kneeling beside you, the mystery isn't just scientific. It's spiritual. Not in a religious sense, but in the awe that comes from touching deep time. From realizing that something like you walked this earth, thought thoughts, felt feelings, and was completely unknown until now. The underground astronauts pack your bones carefully, label them, wrap them. They carry you back up the chute, through the squeeze, into the light. You blink, metaphorically, at the sun. It has been a while. Outside the cave, cameras flash. Computers hum. The bones are scanned, photographed, catalogued. Not just for study, but for preservation. Your entire skeleton is 3D printed and shared with scientists around the world. Your skull appears in labs in Europe, America, Asia. Not the original, but a perfect twin. You, who were forgotten, are now everywhere. Your discovery makes the headlines. New human ancestor found. Missing link discovered, the public argues. The scholars debate. But one thing is certain. You are real. You are part of our story. And we are finally listening. You are laid out on a sterile metal table. Not cold like the cave, but smooth, artificial, bright. Fluorescent lights hum above you. Machines blink nearby. 3D scanners, imaging tools, calibrated scales. Gloved hands rotate your femur, trace the arc of your brow ridge, cradle your tiny, ancient skull. You are no longer hidden. You are evidence now. A body of contradictions placed under lenses and debated in conference halls. Your bones, silent for so long, now speak through data points, high-resolution models, CT scans. You, once curled in darkness, are uncurled on digital screens, recreated in classrooms, printed in resin and passed from one astonished hand to another. And still, no one fully agrees on what you are, because you are not what anyone expected. A small brain, but complex behavior. Modern feet, ancient shoulders, hands that could sculpt, but didn't. A body that moved between worlds, climbing and walking, grasping and gesturing, but left almost no trace of its thoughts. You are a paradox. Your discoverers try to describe you with precision. They write papers, fill diagrams, speak into microphones. But even as they explain your measurements, your morphology, your evolutionary context. You resist definition. You are the species that breaks the rules. Historians still argue whether you should even exist. According to the old models, the ones with neat branches and clear hierarchies, you were impossible. You were supposed to be long gone by the time Homo sapiens emerged. Yet here you are, living in South Africa only 250,000 years ago, alongside early modern humans. You weren't an ancestor. You were a neighbor, a strange cousin who built nothing, burned nothing, left no epic behind. Just bones. And yet, those bones ask louder questions than all the monuments ever built. How did you survive so long without fire? Why did you carry your dead into the dark? How did your small brain manage social bonds, spatial memory, possibly even ritual? And the big one, what does it mean to be human? If you were one too? A quirky footnote in your story. Your DNA is missing. The Naledi chamber preserved your bones, but not your genetics. The warm, humid cave destroyed your molecular secrets. So while modern scientists can scan you, measure you, and even 3D print your skull, they cannot sequence your genes. You are a riddle without a key, a puzzle we can see but cannot solve, and maybe that's fitting. Because your life, and now your afterlife, is about uncertainty, about the space between categories. You are neither chimp nor human, neither fully primitive nor fully modern, not a bridge, not a relic, not an ancestor, not a copy, just you, Homo Naledi, the species that shouldn't exist. And now, in labs and museums around the world, you rest in drawers and display cases, in virtual repositories and fossil databases. But no drawer, no label, no database can hold what you represent. Because your presence shifts the story. You remind us that evolution isn't a ladder. It's a bramble. Messy, tangled, beautiful. You are the wild path in the woods that loops back unexpectedly. The dead end that wasn't. The footnote that rewrites the thesis. You are not a mistake. You are a challenge. To those who would simplify the past, to those who believe intelligence only lives in big brains, to those who think only the loudest voices leave echoes, your voice is quiet, but it reaches us. And so, in this final moment of your story, you look up, not literally, not physically, but through time, and whisper to the one listening now, I am Homo Naledi. I am the species that shouldn't exist. I walked where you walk. I faced what you fear. I survived in silence. I grieved without words. I left no cities, no tools, no fire, just questions. My existence is a question mark placed next to the definition of human. And maybe, so is yours. You are not the end of the story. You are the last of a strange and varied family, the improbable survivor of a tale far more complex than you ever imagined. Now sleep and dream of your impossible relatives. The cave grows quiet once more. The lights fade. The sounds of the lab, the whispers of debate, the clicking of scanners, all drift away like echoes in a long stone tunnel. You are back where you began, in the dark, not alone, but at peace. Time no longer presses on you. You are a memory, now settled. Your story has been told, not with certainty, but with care. A story of contradiction and survival, of gentleness and strength. You lived without fire. You climbed with hands shaped for grace. You endured a world too large for you, too loud, and still, you left a trace. The wind above the cave whispers across the grasslands. The stars shine over the plains where you once foraged and fled and felt the sun warm your back. And somewhere, far beyond that sky, descendants of your distant cousins still walk, still ask questions, still wonder where they came from. Maybe one day they'll ask not just about the great kings and monuments. Maybe they'll remember you, the quiet ones, the ones who lived in the in-between, the ones who taught us that humanity isn't just about brains or tools or language, but about presence, connection, a hand reaching for another in the dark. So rest now. You've carried your part of the story for long enough. Let the earth hold you. Let the silence return. Let sleep take over. Gently now, deeper, slower, gone.